Bomber. Bomber.
Fire them up. That's what we do at the Andrew Gosser Show. We fire them up right here on 103.9 WYAB, where we are streaming on Rumble. We are streaming on YouTube. We are streaming on X. No one cares about Facebook, and we're streaming at the mothership that is WYAB.com. So if you can't pick up the 50,000 watt blowtorch of a signal that is 103.9 WYAB, help us grow the station. Help us build the channel. Like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on X at Andrew Gosser, AndrewGasser. I'd appreciate that greatly. And the phone number, if you want to be part of the program today, it doesn't change. 601-879-0002. Text line is open at 601-879-5060. And the mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show, you know it. It's standard. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? Y'all are the saints. And today, it's been on a heater with this one. It's just saying so much to me every day. Always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason, the hope that is in you, yet do so with gentleness and respect. Yep. And ladies and gentlemen, I am joined in the studio today with Brother Carl. Brother Carl, how you doing?
Good morning, Andrew. It's great to be here.
It's awesome to have you in the studio. We've been talking for a while. We've had lunch together, and it's just great to have listeners come in and give their perspectives on different stories. And there sure is a lot going on.
Absolutely.
Well,
exciting times.
We live in strange and incredible times. And last night, the president of the United States gave an address, and it wasn't covered really by ABC, NBC, and CBS. One of them, and I get the three confused, but one of them kind of did a talking head personality overlay, and then two kind of joined it midstream. And it's just really interesting to me. I'm like, did you get to watch the speech last night?
No, I didn't get to see it, Andrew, because it was all I can get at my house is the ABC and CBS. Disgusting.
Well, you know what? I think that might be a blessing. I mean, you don't have Starlink, right? You don't have none of that.
I am unserved. As much money as our illustrious congressman said he was going to bestow on the state of Mississippi to be sure that every household, and that was been 5 years ago, that every household in Mississippi would have broadband. And I'm in parts of Warren County that are unserved and underserved.
You know, if they would have just bought Starlink terminals and outright bought them and hook people up that way and have them pay for their own internet, which is fine because you're going to pay for your own cable bill. You're going to pay for your own Starlink, and that would have, man almighty, that would have been great. And we got Starlink news and everything, but the place I want to start is with President Trump, and I've got the key takeaway clip. The key takeaway clip from this is right here. It's 1 minute and 42 seconds. I'm just going to let it roll, ladies and gentlemen.
But most importantly, addressing this crisis of election security demands that Congress must pass the Save America Act. How easy is that to do unless you want to cheat? The only reason you wouldn't do it is you want to cheat because your policies are so bad and your candidates are so pathetic that you can't.
I got to stop it because he's talking about the policies and candidates. The candidates that were in Maine, that fascist Nazi tattooed guy who's been convicted of sexual assault, you know, he dropped out, and I didn't think you could get a worse candidate than him, but I got the audio to prove it that you can actually get worse than that guy, Planter.
Sure.
And President Trump is right. President Trump is right. We're being invaded by the DSA, and let's just let it continue. Sorry for interrupting. You got anything to add to that, brother?
Well, it's Marxism that I believe we're fighting. I think that's the greatest threat is Marxism.
I think that Marxism is the threat. I think, though, that the greatest threat is our education system that's promoting the Marxism. I don't like what our education system's doing, but let's let the president go here.
Get away or can't get elected any other way. This landmark bill requires that all voters must show photo, voter ID. How simple is that? Could I have your photo, please? Photo, voter ID. All voters must provide proof of citizenship. Are you a citizen of our country, please? And hopefully there will be no corrupt mail-in ballots, which if you watched California and so many other places, mail-in ballots are inherently corrupt.
Do you know that there's no other country in the first world or second world and none in the third world that allow mail-in voting, mass mail-in voting? Of course, France and England allow their soldiers, sailors, Marines to vote by mail, and President Trump isn't coming after that. But we're the only ones that do that. And if you think about it, it's only in the blue states. What's that telling you, ladies and gentlemen? It's open corruption as far as I'm concerned.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Let's continue this on here with Mr. President right here.
So you would have no mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military deployment, or travel if you're going away on business or vacation. These reforms are urgently needed to stop the vulnerabilities that I've mentioned. To all Americans, I ask you to pick up your phone tomorrow, call your representatives in the House and Senate, and demand that they pass the Save America Act without delay.
Yep. And you know what? I've been saying that on the show, Brother Carl. I feel this next to the big, beautiful bill. This is the big thing.
Yes.
It's the only thing that the president asked in the State of the Union for the Senate to do was pass the Save America Act. You know, Senator John Thune stood up and cheered. Senator Roger Wicker is a co-sponsor, hasn't talked about it publicly, but he when it comes down to it, I think he's gonna vote for it. And I know Cindy Hyde-Smith is the same way. You know, we're in a Republican plus 12 state. And I just think that if we had more leadership from our Senate candidates, maybe some of these other senators would come out and say something about it.
Andy, I've long been a proponent of, if you are a rhino, if you will not go along with the majority of your party, I don't think you should be able to vote. I think you ought to be replaced.
It's one of those things where the 17th Amendment, which was passed, which basically said the state used to pick the senators, the state house, and the governor the governor would nominate it and it would be approved through the state. And then they would go to Washington and they would serve at the pleasure of the governor. We don't do that anymore. We basically turned the Senate into a Congress, except the main difference between the two, and this is scary. Most 14-year-olds don't know that their senators are elected to 6-year terms.
Right.
They're completely clueless. And so what we're looking at here is a situation where kids are getting up, getting ready to vote. They don't understand the Constitution. All they do is get this indoctrination from this liberal rot gut stuff coming from our education department. And now they're asking to make real world decisions, and it's having real world impacts on our society.
Yeah, I agree with the president too. And, you know, he has offered that the terms be changed, that it no longer be 6 years. I go along with that. I think 6 years is too long. If you've got a bad apple in your basket, 6 years is a long time.
I think, and I would have to go back and research this and see. This just goes to show you that I don't know everything about the Constitution. I can still learn about it daily, much like the Bible. I've read it 100 times, and yep, I still have to learn stuff. But I want to know what the Constitution had the term limits for the senators. I'm not wondering if the states could send them for 6-year terms, but I also know that the states could recall the senator at any time in the middle of their term and say, we don't like what you're doing in Washington, change it up.
I think that the odds of the state of Mississippi doing that would be very, very low.
It is, and as two recovering politicians, we understand a little bit more than most, and in different ways. Because when you're sitting in the seat, you know, and all of a sudden you're asking to take those votes, all of a sudden there's real pressure there, and especially if you're in the minority, and you're voting against the will of, not the will, but the political machine that you were sent there to either A, represent, or B, oppose. And in my case, I was sent to oppose certain things. And it was easy to get elected, in my opinion, but to follow through on that, you feel real pressure. And there was never a doubt of what I wasn't going to do. I was going to keep my word. But to say that there's no pressure when you're going into there, that's a lie.
Have you ever been contacted by your representative or your senator or anyone anyone that you have voted for to put in office, have you ever been contacted and asked about what issues you might be interested in or what's weighing on your family?
No, but I do get a lot of fundraising letters.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know,
That seems to be foremost. Yes.
I get a lot of fundraising letters, and you know, if I'm being truthful, I was contacted by U.S. Congressman Illinois 6 Peter Roscom back in 2014, and we were close, but you know, I helped him get elected. He endorsed me for my county supervisor race, and when I was working with SpaceX to get the Commercial Crew and Cargo Act, he called me. He knew I was working in DC. He knew I understood this issue, and he brought me into his office. And what was really cool, I got to be careful how I say this, but he had some other members there who were not necessarily pro COTS, Commercial Crew and Cargo. But by the time we got done explaining, I was able to convince those congressmen and women to go along with it. And they were Republicans, so you would think that Republicans like business, but they only like business if those businesses are the ones that are donating them money.
There you go. There
And
you follow the money.
oh, you know, I used to joke around and say, Boeing owes me 2 new suits because I was going around and I wasn't bad mouthing them. I was just telling the truth. They were half a decade behind schedule and already $3 billion over budget. And you look at the projects that Boeing is managing today, the new 747s for Air Force One, they're like $3 billion over budget and 5 years behind schedule. You look at their rockets that they build, way overpriced and using 1960s and 70s technology, and the American taxpayers getting paid for that. So track record. They would come behind me and say, "Oh, Andrew doesn't know what he's talking about." And I walked out of one congressman's office, and he goes, "Here, let me take that knife out of your back." And I'm like, he goes, "Yeah, the Boeing guys are right there. They're about to knife you." I'm like, "Oh, thanks, Congressman." It's like, "Don't worry, we're good." But you know, the president said that he wanted people to call out to their senators and ask them to publicly support the Save America Act. And you know, we do show prep here at WYAB. We just don't sit down in the seat, hit the go button, and away we go. Oh no, my friend.
Give those numbers.
Yeah. So all right. So if you want to call the senior senator from Mississippi, Roger F. Wicker, and you want to call him in DC, the number is 202-224-6253. If you would like to call him in Mississippi, his Jackson office, 601-965-4644. If you would like to call the junior senator from Mississippi to support the Save America Act, in DC, 202-224-5054. If you would like to contact our office in Jackson, the number is 601-965-4459. I'll say that again, 601-965-4459. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you do give them a call, and you know, I would love to see all the listeners from the Andrew Gosser Show to call their offices, both in DC and in Jackson, and be respectful, be sweet. You know, there's a proverb, I think it's Proverb 16, that says, sweet words are like honeycomb to the lips, sweet to the taste, and good to the soul. And you know, just be sweet. You don't need to act a fool on the phone. And I know that's going to be a good segue into a coming up segment. Go ahead and do that. If you need your U.S. representatives, I got those numbers too. But we're already up against our first break, brother Carl. Like, time just flies when you're having fun. The Andrew Gosser Show.
That's right.
Yep. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYB. We'll be right back. Oh, yeah. Here we go. We're back at it at the Andrew Gosser Show on 1039 WYAB. Carl is in the studio with us, and we were just talking about the Save America Act and the speech that Trump gave. And Dogfish came in with this question here, so we're going to answer it. So China hacked into 220 million voter info packets. That's a lot of voters. What we have not had that many vote in an election at one time. And the truth of the matter is, and this is going out to everybody who's texting in, talking about how China has the voter rolls. What bothers me is that anybody listening to my voice right now can go to the Secretary of State's office, and if they're a candidate, they can request a voter roll, and you're going to pay $20 for it, but you're going to get the voting history of everybody that you ask for. Now, the more refined and the more tricks and curls that you try to ask for the state to do, it's going to cost you more money. But the fact that they have the voter rolls, I'm not as concerned as I am what they do with the voter rolls, because they're sitting there using the manipulation to change the elections, which I believe they've done in the past, and they'll do it in the future too. That's a problem. But don't think for 1 second, your data online. Carl, you were talking about that. Why don't you go ahead and comment on the data brokers?
Yeah, well, all of your information is online, and you there are some programs that you can join if you want to pay that monthly fee, that go in there and demand, because by law, if they're told they have to, these data brokers, if
Mhm.
they're told that they have to delete your information, they have to do it. And then these monthly services will go back and they will check on that later and see that it's done and keep your name off of all of the data broker sites.
Yep.
But everything that you do, every keystroke that you hit on a computer or on your phone, is being recorded, and it's being bought and sold.
Yep. And that's the thing, that don't think for a minute that there's not a file on every human that has got a cell phone device that they're not tracking. Even the 5 and the 4-year-olds, they're sitting there and they're, yeah, your kid likes Bluey. Okay, what can we go ahead and inject into the commercials into Bluey to start warping your kid's mind? It is that detailed, ladies and gentlemen. And so I think that China, it's definitely, it wasn't, the Democrats say Russia, Russia, Russia. The Republicans say China, China, China. There's no evidence of Russia, 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 but there is evidence of China, China, China. And yet we've got the losers over at ABC saying there's no evidence. You've got the CIA saying it, DNI saying it. Say what you want about Tulsi Gabbard leaving. And I was one of those people who was like, if my spouse had cancer, I'd be stepping back and pulling back and go focus
Right.
on that. But she
Yeah.
did the job she was asked to do by President Trump, and I think she did an amazing job. I'll give you the last word on this before we kind of pivot.
I think she did a great job while she was in there. She did all that she could do given the time that she was in there. And I think if she was still in there, she would still be forthcoming with pertinent information regarding these. I mean, some of these are huge issues,
Mm-hmm.
and she was spot on. She didn't bring it out until she knew she had all the goods. And I think that's why there's so many people that are calling for, like, demanding, we want answers right now. We want something done right now. We want to see people. There are people that called in here that want to know, where are the indictments? Where are the arrests? And because they're not going to do anything until they know that they've got all the goods and they can prove their day in court.
I think Tulsi Gabbard was great with that. I think Pam Bondi was an unmitigated disaster, in my opinion. And I know there are people out there like who are inside law enforcement, and they would disagree with me. They think that she did a good job, but I'm just telling you, the way that she handled the Epstein files. If she didn't have the stack of stuff on her desk, she shouldn't have been recorded at the diner saying she had the stack of stuff on her desk. And now we're in a situation where there are people like me out there who, I just don't trust the DOJ. I just don't.
Yeah, I think a lot of that system was compromised in the years prior to Trump, and now they're having to claw their way. The conservative
Mm-hmm.
government is having to try and claw its way back through so many. It's like a landmine field, And I think, to cover their own selves, they're having to claw back through all of this stuff that was set up. Primarily, believe began with Obama being elected. I think that was the worst thing that ever happened to this country as far as a leader. And so much was compromised and sold out during his tenure there, and then um, the deep state, what I guess referred to as deep state,
Hmm.
um, grew exponentially against the American people, against the American voters, as well as control in Congress.
Do you think, and I'm pushing back against you a little here because I want to see where we're at. How do you feel President Bush, the second Bush in office, do you think he supported the deep state?
I think we have been set up for a long time. I think even his father. Yes.
Yep.
I think we have been on this path for now, into two generations.
Yep.
And that control, power corrupts absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yep.
And that I think there's literally a drunkenness, I think, because it's amazing to see that some good people get elected and go to Congress or go to Washington, and it's like all of a sudden they're totally different. They're totally different people in just a matter of weeks or months. It's like
Hours.
I think they're told to get on this train.
Yep.
You got elected. Now you're on this train. Your ticket's been punched. Okay, you're riding with us.
Look at what they did to President Clinton with Monica Lewinsky in the Oval Office. You sit there and think about the compromise of presidents alone. I can go back and I can say Bush 41 was compromised. Bill Clinton compromised. George Bush compromised. Barack Obama compromised. Trump, there might be stuff on him that people are angry about, but they got to know him during The Apprentice, and they grew up with him with Home Alone, and he has some type of Teflon. And the last person they called Teflon was Reagan. Reagan and Trump seem to have that Teflon on them.
I call it anointing.
Ooh.
When God appoints someone to a place and they step into that, just like when you were I say a politician,
Yep.
but you were elected when you were elected official, and put it a kinder way, and me too. I did it because God told me to serve. He said serve.
Yep.
He didn't say I'm gonna make you rich or famous, or I'm gonna put you in a place of power. He didn't say any of that. He said, I want you to serve your community.
Yep.
And when you do it, and I think that's what Donald J. Trump does, he's serving out of the weight, because it's a burden. It is a burden, and he is the most burdened man on earth.
I don't know how an 80-year-old man works the amount of hours that dude works. I mean, I know he's got the red button for the Diet Coke, and that's all fun and dandy. But as someone who, when I was a highway commissioner, I would work 16, 18-hour days, and I'd punch the clock because they're like, Andy, you're always gone. And there were times where towards the end, I knew I wasn't running again and I was turning over. I was like, okay, you got it. But you sit there and you work sometimes 20, 22 hours in a day. There are times where you'd sleep in the office. And I know it's great that he's attached to the Oval Office, because the West Wing is because, man, the amount of energy that you have to expel and the burdens that must be on that man's back.
Right.
Absolutely crazy. Well, it's already time for the next commercial break, so we're going to take it. But when we get back, we're going to talk about the Blue Angels, because they made the news. The news media is making it something that it's not, much like the news media does all the time. And I just want to dispel a little bit of the myth and the rumor and the innuendo that's being put out there. And I kind of want to give a military aviators point of view on that. This is the Andrew Gosser Show. That is Brother Carl. You are tuned into 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. Love it here at the Andrew Gossett Show on 103.9 WYAB in the studio with Brother Ken. And Brother Ken, or Carl, not Ken. What am I saying? I'm sitting here reading my screen. Not
I'll take it.
Brother Carl. I'm wearing my United States Navy shirt. I've actually got 3 of these shirts. So sometimes people say, you wear the same shirt the other day. Well, I got 3 of them because honor, courage, and commitment are the core values of the United States Navy, and I still live by them. Now, granted, I'm a retired U.S. Air Force officer, so it's integrity first, service before self, excellence in all we do. I live that too. But we got to talk about the Blue Angels knife edge pass over Pensacola Beach and the media.
Blue Angels are investigating after a low flyover during an event in Pensacola, Florida. Take a look at this video. It shows one of the jets flying over a crowded beach and banking sideways. Wow.
You know what? I'm going to start that over again because I want to sit here and make sure that this happens.
The Navy's elite Blue Angels are investigating after a low flyover during an event in Pensacola, Florida. Take a look at this video. It shows one of the jets flying over a crowded beach and banking sideways. Wow. Tom Hansen has more.
All eyes were on the skies over Pensacola Beach, Florida, as beachgoers watched Blue Angels Navy jets soar over the Gulf.
Have you ever seen the Blue Angels by any chance?
Yes, I have.
What do you think?
I have. I've seen them down in Louisiana practicing out of
Pensacola or New Orleans?
New Orleans.
Yep. I'll tell you what, it is a great recruitment tool, not just for the United States Navy and the United States Marines, but people see the Blue Angels and they just get motivated on the military. Obviously, the Blue Angels would love for you to join the Navy and Marine Corps, but you have to sit there, and the demonstration team is awesome, all professionals, and let's get into this.
Seconds later, they were taken by surprise.
And they picked up umbrellas and they flew around. That's really thrilling.
During a flyover,
It was thrilling.
A Blue Angels jet came barreling so low over the beach, it sent sand.
So what I want to say about this, every military aviator out there, whether you're a pilot, backseater, air battle manager, we can all agree that what this Navy F-18 Super Hornet Blue Angel did over the beach was non-standard. Now, I'm not going to call it unprofessional. I'm not going to say that he was hot dogging. I don't think Blue Angels do that. But what I do say is that sometimes things happen, and he was definitely outside of the performance envelope. And when I can see an F-18 Super Hornet flying over the beach and they're so low that I can read the Buno number off the engine cowl, that's a problem. And I'm not saying this guy needs to be de-winged, defrocked, and kicked out of the Blues or anything like that, but just as a aviator, as a military professional who flew backseater, granted, that needs to be debriefed. And by debriefed, I mean someone's butt's going to get chewed pretty hard because that's low. And it's fair to ask the questions. Now, was he going to sit there and barrel into the beach and all that stuff? No. And this is where our mainstream media, Operation Mockingbird, the ridicule, the scorn, the mockery, it's got to go. And listen to what CBS Morning News did to the Blue Angels after this.
And chairs intense flying.
Sand blowing
Navy's
everywhere.
Elite flight team says the startling pass was lower than standard. A still image shows the jet just feet over people's heads.
Ladies and gentlemen, that F-18 was probably at the same level that the Apaches flew over, which was 125 to 150 feet AGL. He was low, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just saying. I mean, I love my Navy, and I will defend my sailors to the end. Marines too. Oh, Air Force and soldiers. I'll defend you all. But brother, that was low.
Earlier this month, there was another controversial maneuver when 4 Apache attack helicopters flew low over people's heads gathered at Myrtle Beach on the 4th of July. The pilots were suspended, but days later, the Pentagon reversed the decision. As for Wednesday's flyover, the Blue Angels say they are conducting a safety review.
Dude, I know you can't see the screen, but if you could see the screen, that was like, I've talked about it on the show. You might have heard me talk about the air show that we had on the aircraft carrier for the president of Bosnia and Herzegovina back when they were all doing their war. And this Blue Angel was about as low as the flight deck. I mean, it was scary low. And here's the other thing too, and we're going to listen to the mainstream media beat up on the Blue Angels and the military talking about all this flying. This is what we train to do. You don't think Apache helicopters aren't flying 10 feet above the ground? You know, you got 160th SOAR, you know, the Special Operations Aviation Regiment. You know, they'll fly literally feet above the ground to get below the radar. Andy, they're not lower than 10 feet. Au contraire. Those guys and those gals are the absolute consummate professionals. They know what they're doing. They're not sitting there trying to wipe out the people. People say they're hot dog, they're not. But Carl, I want you to listen to this, and then I want to get your opinion on it.
For CBS Mornings, I'm Tom Hansen.
Here it
And
is.
we spoke to an aviation expert who was familiar with Blue Angels training and protocol. They told us jets are supposed to fly or not supposed to fly over crowds that low. And while they don't know why this happened, noted that at such fast speeds, a momentary lapse in concentration, for example, even a sneeze could cause a pilot to veer off course, which could be dangerous with people so close to those.
That would have been a hell of a sneeze because he flew low for so long too,
Yeah.
enough to kick up the sand and the winds.
Yeah.
Very scary stuff.
What are your thoughts on that?
So he was flying a knife edge maneuver. So he's got his wings vertical.
He is what he's supposed to do is like a sneak around pass, and he's supposed to, and he knife edges it. So that's just, everybody does knife edge. It's just basically you turn the plane on its side. Yep. But he was not at the right heading, or something was not right, because it took him over the beach and brother was low, and those jet engines blasted the crap out of those people. I mean, honestly, those people know what it's like to be behind jet blast deflector on the aircraft carrier, getting the snot knocked out of you as a F-18 Super. I mean, it's not right, but the recruitment tool on it is awesome. But I was wondering, what did you think about the media's response there?
Typical is typical. They don't like anything that goes on in the pretty much now in our military. I'm sure that Pete Hegseth he's taking the brunt of this, but and I'm sure justice will be done. Fortunately, no one was hurt, thank God. Yeah, I would say that was a bad moment for that pilot. I think maybe he was a little overcome by the circumstances and decided that he'd show people what he could do.
I'm not sure he meant to do that. Pete Hegseth has already come out with the initial tweet, and so has Sean Purnell, the communications director for this Department of War, saying "Carry on, Patriots," which basically means no suspension, nothing like that. And you know, there are times where you know, pilots do lose their wings for hot dogging, but I genuinely don't think that this guy was hot dogging. I genuinely think he got lined up wrong, or something went bad. But when I hear the news media sitting there saying, "Oh, he could have sneezed in the turn," well, you know what? You might cough driving down the road, or you might toot on the air. You know, I might have to pass gas. You know, what the hell are we doing here? What are we doing here? You're foolish. I mean, these guys and gals, and there's female Blue Angel pilots too. So let's not discount the women in this. They are the consummate professionals, and they do incredible things. And when they're in the middle of an air show, I can tell you, they're not sneezing, they're not coughing, they're not sick. If they are, they cancel the show. And that's why when you're a Blue or you're a Thunderbird, I mean, there are all sorts of requirements. And you know, I never was one, but I had friends who were, and they would tell me about it. And you go talk to any former Blue Angel pilot or any Thunderbird pilot, they'll happily tell you about it and tell you all the craziness that they had to go through, because the amount of professionalism and that's going to be like the greatest recruiting tool since Maverick Pete Mitchell blew by the tower at Naval Air Station Miramar and Top Gun. I mean, everybody's sitting there loving it. The kids are loving it. There's kids out there, like, they don't show all the positive interviews out of it. So to the mainstream media that's sitting there trying to make drama out of this, let the military take care of the military. And, you know, there will be a safety review board on this. I know that that's being done.
Mhm.
But to sit there and fire everybody up, I'll give you the last word on this as we get ready to cut to break.
Okay. Yeah, I just and I've seen the bliss. You're seeing the best of the best, and not saying that there are not aviators that fly missions that are flying missions that could not be that good, but they're not the ones on show, and they have their own show.
Yep.
I just appreciate that we have um, airmen that do what they do out there, especially on the carriers. Man, that's just I
Oh,
love watching reels, watching what these guys do coming off of carriers and landing on carriers. Nerves of steel.
taking off's the fun part. Coming back on, that's a little bit more of a hairy
The
challenge right
six G's,
Yeah.
6 G's they experience on the takeoff
there. Up to 3 Gs on takeoff.
up to 3.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, but when you're flying around, you usually try to get 6.5 just to keep the body fresh. I'll tell you what, and F-16 ride, I went on an F-16 ride with no tanks. So for all of you former F-16 pilots out there, when you get to go have an incentive ride with no tanks, even though you're in the family model, it's going to be a fun day. Yep. That is Brother Carl. I am Andrew Gosser. We're going to take our last commercial break of the first hour, and then in the next hour, we're going to get into some biblical worldviews, ladies and gentlemen. So hang in there. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back.
The Navy's elite Blue Angels are investigating after a low flyover during an event in Pensacola, Florida. Take a look at this video. It shows one of the jets flying over a crowded beach and banking sideways.
Wow.
Tom Hansen has more.
All eyes were on the skies over Pensacola Beach, Florida, as beachgoers watched Blue Angels Navy jets soar over the Gulf. Seconds later, they were taken by surprise.
And they picked up umbrellas and they flew around. That's really thrilling.
During a flyover, a Blue Angels jet came barreling so low over the beach, it sent sand, chairs, and tents flying. The Navy's elite flight team says the startling pass was lower than standard. A still image shows the jet just feet over people's heads. Earlier this month, there was another controversial maneuver when 4 Apache attack helicopters flew low over people's heads gathered at Myrtle Beach on the 4th of July. The pilots were suspended, but days later, the Pentagon reversed the decision. As for Wednesday's flyover, the Blue Angels say they are conducting a safety review. For CBS Mornings, I'm Tom Hansen.
And we spoke to an aviation expert who was familiar with Blue Angels training and protocol. They told us jets are supposed to fly or not supposed to fly over crowds that low. And while they don't know why this happened, noted that at such fast speeds, a momentary lapse in concentration, for example, even a sneeze could cause a pilot to veer off course, which could be dangerous with people so close.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. As we wrap up the first hour, it's in the can already, Brother Carl. What do you think?
It's gone fast, Andy.
It goes by really quick, and it
Yeah.
goes by even quicker when you have real good topics and you do the show prep. And sometimes there's topics you think are going to hit a home run, and it just grinds really slow. But one thing that's coming in is people are asking for Senator Wicker and Senator Hyde-Smith's phone number. Ladies and gentlemen, that makes me a happy man, knowing that you're out there doing this, because that's the only way that these senators are going to know. So, Senator Roger Wicker, D.C. office number 202-224-6253. His Jackson, Mississippi office is 601-965-4644. If you would like to talk to Miss Cindy Hyde-Smith, Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith, let me get that right. I'm not being disrespectful at all, Senator. Her office number is 202-224-5054. And her Jackson, Mississippi office is 601-695-4459. And we want you to call those senators and let them know. If you need the numbers to any of the congressmen, let me know. I'll put them out there. But, with the exception of Benny Thompson, our congressmen have voted the right way. And, they could have spoken out more. I wish they would have, but they're voting the right way. I don't feel the need to go over there and call them and rage about the Save America
I think
Act.
Congressman Thompson ought to be contacted as well.
All right. Well, if you want to contact Congressman Benny Thompson and let him know that you support the Save America Act, his number is 202-225-5876. And his Jackson office is 601-946-9003. Again, that's 601-946-9003. And again, if you're calling Benny Thompson, and you know what, he's my congressman, so I'll give him a call and just let him know we would like to Save America Act passed, just to let him know. Be respectful and be well, I'd say be kind, but just be professional, I would say, because you can have a robust debate and not be kind, and I'm totally fine with that. But be professional, for crying out loud. You don't want to act the fool.
I've called in numerous times. I have never spoken to Congressman Thompson. It's always a staffer. Well, I mean, I've never spoken to any of them.
Yep. I've never met Congressman Benny Thompson. I've got to go out to lunch with Congressman Michael Guest and talk to him a couple times. Always professionals. He knows exactly where I stand on things, and he knows I'm much more of a conservative type. But again, it's that professional relationship where if something needs to be called in, you can. Well, brother, the first hour is already in the can. In the next hour, we're going to talk about some words, the meaning of words, and how important they are. Because you came loaded for bear, and I want to make sure that we explore this. Jameson always used to say biblical worldviews, and that's something that we're really trying to do here on the Andrew Gosser Show is bring those into commonplace to say, so that's why Mama and Daddy always did it that way. That's why Grandma and Grandpa always did it that way. Biblical worldview is important.
Foundation.
Firm foundations.
Yeah.
Superior Foundations.ms. Great sponsor of the program. Appreciate them. Glad you brought that up. Well, look, next hour, we're going to be talking about that. We've got to talk about Hamas on the march in the DNC convention in Michigan. We got audio of that. We've got so much more to get to, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in about 7.5 minutes. Peace. And we are back here at the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB, where we are streaming on Rumble, where we are streaming on X, where we are streaming on YouTube. No one cares about Facebook, and we're streaming at the mothership that is WYAB.com. So if you can't pick up the 50,000 watt blowtorch of a signal, that is 103.9 WYAB, help us grow the station. Help us build the station. Like, share, and subscribe to the stream. Share us on Facebook. Share us with a friend. Share us with a family member. Share it with a Democrat. Let's make it happen, ladies and gentlemen. My handle on Twitter is at Andrew Gosser, AndrewGasser. Phone number. I know that there were some calls last hour. We were just in our flow. We'll try to get to them in this hour. If you give a call, 601-879-0002. Text line 601-879-5060. And the mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show is standard. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? Y'all are the saints. I planted it, Apollos watered it, but it was God that gave the increase. Brother Carl, we were talking about reaping and sowing over the top of the hour break. And you had some words that we wanted to go over. And I don't know which words you want to start with, but let's just start with one that you think that you want to go with. And let's really dive into it, because when we talk about reaping and sowing, you know, everybody always says, oh, that's biblical. I don't want to hear that. But it's true, whether it's biblical knowledge, whether it's political knowledge, whether it's workplace knowledge, you put in the effort, you're going to see the reward from it.
Amen. And if you, I mean, you don't dare go to a grocery store and not reap what someone else has sowed. You can't do. If you buy rice, if you buy wheat, if you buy corn, if you buy beans or peas, whatever, you buy meat, the meat had to be fed.
Yep.
And so somewhere somebody planted. And so the whole process is, you're not going to reap if you don't sow. And that is personal as well as other things. But you've got to put somewhere, you've got to put something in the ground.
Yep.
And if you sow wheat, you're not going to get corn.
Yep.
If you sow peas, you're not going to get greens.
Yep.
If you want greens, you got to get green seed. So it's just, I mean, it's as plain as the nose on your face that if you need something, I've done this, Andy, and this to me really brought it home and made it personal to me. I had a lawnmower at one time. It was one of those old ones with the little engine in the back. And I've always been a barterer. I love to trade, and I would trade my work, things that I did. I was a remodeling contractor for years, but I would trade for something that I saw that I wanted, if the person was willing to do that. And so there was a guy on my street, and was willing to trade this, I forget the name of that thing. It's not a Troy built, but anyway. And so he was willing to let me do some work on his house and trade for it. And I got it. And I never got done trying to fix it up so that it would operate. Every time I used it, I had to do something to it. And so I decided, you know what? I had a helper that lived just a little ways across town from me that I would pick up every day to bring to work with me.
Yep.
And we were working in the Tri-County area, Jackson area. And so I took him, on the way home one day, I noticed that the yard his yard was in horrible shape. We were well into the early summer, and his yard had not been cut. And I said, dude, what is going on with your yard, man? I said, you need to borrow my mower or something? And he said, yeah. He said, I can't. He said, I've tried to get mine. He said, I only have a push mower anyway. And he had a big yard. And I said, I tell you what, I'm going to take you to my house and you can have my mower.
There you go.
And ride it home. And he said, he couldn't believe it. And I said, yeah. And so I had mowed my lawn like about 3 or 4 days before I made him that offer. I watched him ride off down there, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, now I'm going to need to cut mine in about a week. And and I was like, boy, and I had a push mower, but my yard was 98 feet wide and 190 feet long. And I was like, boy, that's going to be a lot of pushing. But so I just in the course of the next few days, I happened to tell a guy that I was working with. I said, I made mention of it to him. I said, yeah, I gave Steve that mower. I said, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I said, I'm gonna probably have to take off a couple of hours early one afternoon. He said, come over to my house and I'll give you one.
Wow.
And so I went from an 8 horsepower, I think it was like maybe a 26 or a 28 inch mower. I went over to his house, and his father-in-law had given him a really nice mower, really nice big mower. And he had a mower sitting there, 18 horsepower. I think it was maybe a 42 inch.
Yep.
And so I planted that seed.
Yep.
I gave that headache away.
Yeah.
I'm not bragging, but then I wound up being blessed, and it came back to me. And it was, if you plant one kernel of corn, the average is 100 kernels on one cob.
Yep.
And so you get the increase. And people need to understand that God planned all of this. This didn't by accident. This didn't just happen.
Yep.
And if they will plant, if they will sow, and that seed doesn't come up overnight.
It takes time to grow.
But it took me less than a week. It took me less than a week for me giving that mower away to get the increase. And that's just the way God works. That's his doing. But everything follows those principles. There are principles that are in the Bible, and to me, it's all truth. It's all truth. I hear people say, and of course, there's a different meaning for this, but they came up with this saying, "My truth."
Yeah. No, there is no your truth. It's just the truth. The truth is that the leaves on the trees behind you right there, Brother Carl, are green. Now your truth might be they're purple, but your truth is not the truth. Your truth is wrong. It's not in reality.
That's deception.
It's absolutely insane to me. And reaping and sowing, you put it into worldly terms. We gave the biblical perspective, the worldly term. People want to go to the elections, and they think that all of a sudden they're going to be able to run for Congress against a sitting congressman, and they haven't sown anything. They haven't go ahead and planted anything. They haven't watered it. They haven't matured it. And then all of a sudden they get upset when all of a sudden they lose, and then they get blackpilled, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not doing this anymore." They just give up.
The only exception to that, I would say, is though if God has told you to do that. I really admired Mike Cassidy.
Yeah.
When he ran, and boy, that dude, when he went up there and ripped that head off of that demonic being up there in Iowa.
Yeah.
I mean, I had all respect for him, but if God tells you to do it, that it may not be for you to win.
Yep.
But be obedient and do what God said to do. If he puts that in your heart, it's like I didn't ask to be put into as a council member.
Yep.
In that seat. I was already the fire chief in my town, and I had done that because God told me to serve. That was I was not one of those kids growing up that I looked at a fire truck going down the street and said, "Oh man, I'd like to be doing that. I'd love to be on that truck."
Well, it's funny you say that, Carl, because when I was running for highway commissioner, I was doing my best Jonah. I was running away from that. I was trying to get, because I have a military engineering flying background. Do I understand the principles of building a road? Can I get it figured out quick? But I had no experience in that. But the corruption was so deep and so bad, and everybody was afraid to run them. And I just heard God say, "Andy, you're going to run." And I can remember sitting at the diner in Crystal Lake, Illinois, signing my election papers in front of like 50 people, and they're all sitting there cheering. And I'm like, man, I just signed away my political life. And lo and behold, 4 months later, I'm the new highway commissioner, and it's God's providence that caused that to happen.
Yes.
And that's why this show to me is well, not because it has my name on it, but so important to me because I want to show people that it's not the political persuasion that's important. It's following the word and being that example like we talked about in the first hour, being that example. What's different about you, Carl? What's different about you, Andrew? What's different about you, Jameson, or Bruce, or Rick? What makes you stand out different? What's different makes you stand out, John? Why do people sit there and point at you, Pastor PD, and say, man, that guy's just got something different? And I want to promote that in a way that is, unfortunately, we live in a culture where everybody gets offended by everything, from the ads that pop up on their TikTok to something that comes across the airwaves. They just have a way to get offended by it. And I don't want to be that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I say too, that goes back to those words that we were talking about earlier.
Well, we're going to talk about them.
Yeah. And if you can't agree with the Bible, or if you choose to live aside from God, whether you say you know him and you invoke his name occasionally
Mm-hmm.
for your purpose,
Yep.
I'm gonna say you're a fool. And I did a little, I read the Proverbs all the time.
It's my
And
favorite.
yeah, and so in 14:3 it says, "A fool's mouth lashes out with pride, but the lips of the wise protect them." So people that, and especially there's people who are willing to call this station, not just this program, but this station, and speak out, um, and brag on being, I'm just going to say this, a Democrat, because that is a party of the ungodly. And we really have, and I'm not saying there are not godly people in the Democrat Party.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying that the people in the Democrat Party that brag on removing God from their party,
Yep.
sponsoring and always being pro-death,
Yep.
that can't live without abortion, I'm telling you, you're a fool. You might even be saved, but you can still be a fool. The way of a fool seems right to them, but the wise listen to advice. Fools find no pleasure in understanding, but delight in airing their own opinions. That's 18:2.
Yep.
And so it I'm saying that there's an exposure, and I'm saying this, that God in this day that we live in, that he has made us for.
Mm-hmm.
We are here by design. You didn't hatch yourself.
You didn't get in some primordial soup with a big bang.
Nah, you got here like every one of us did. And the mortality rate among us is 100%. So while you're here, before you reach your expiration date, I would say, don't be foolish. Look for the true way. There's a way that seems right unto a man, but the end thereof is death. And that's another proverb.
Yep. Imagine that.
And
could you imagine if starting in kindergarten, kids were exposed to one book of the Proverbs every day for just 5 minutes? It takes you 5 minutes to read one chapter in the book of Proverbs.
And there's 31 chapters. It works out
31 days,
for
right?
a month. There you go.
And there's a little bit of spiciness in Proverbs 6, 7, and 8, but you can modify that for your age adult audience and make it the right way. And I would just think where society would be. And I want to continue a little bit of this conversation about the word fool, but we got to do so on the other side of the break. That is Brother Carl. I am Andrew Gosser. You are getting a biblical worldview on how you can use the Bible to go ahead and live your life daily. This is 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back.
expiration.
Yep. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We're here with Brother Carl and getting all sorts of texts. I see the texts about lawnmower and about Israel and stuff like that. And we might get into that, but Carl and I have been vibing off of what we wanted to originally start talking about, which was these words with foolish and being a fool. You know, they say that the Constitution is a living document, and that the words that were written back in 1780 are not the same as they are, or they're different than today. And it's true. If you call somebody a fool back in 1780, they were going to be like, oh my goodness, I'm doing something wrong. You call somebody a fool today and they think it's a joke. And it just goes to show you that the words mean what they're meant at the time they were written, not this living document thing like the Democrats try to say with their Constitution. It's not the same thing. And you can go back and we can get into all the different versions of the Bible and different translations and stuff. And I agree with some of it I don't, and that's okay. But I really like the word that you used with fool.
Yeah, I've got a friend that reads a Hebrew translated Bible. The whole Bible, all 66 books were translated from Hebrew.
Mhm.
And I don't go that far. In fact, I read today's what is it? The new
NASB,
NIV.
NIV.
Yeah.
Yep.
I read that primarily. Anyway, the words, if they haven't been totally adulterated, that word is timeless.
Yep.
And they prove themselves over and over again. The word will always show itself. It'll prove itself.
I got this text here. I'm enjoying your guest this morning. Such a blessing, and I hope to hear more from him on your future programs. Thank you, Pam. I mean, people are getting the word, and you know, there's so much negativity out there. I mean, I sit there and I'm guilty of it. I'll point out ABC and CBS News every chance I get, but there's got to be some positive stuff, and this is positive stuff, Carl. You know, and you know, this craziness that's on the march. Going through the Democrat Party, whether it be the DSA or the militant Islam stuff. I'm pulling up the post right here. Ladies and gentlemen, I got another exhibit for you. Can someone please tell me where this is? And yep, here we go. Carl, you want to guess where that is?
Sri Lanka.
No.
London.
No, but that would be a good choice. That's a good guess.
Where?
Michigan.
Of course it was.
Michigan, and
it could also be New York.
It could also be Plano, Texas.
Yes.
Militant Islam is on the march. And I know you had some thoughts about that, and I'd just like to get your opinions on it.
Yeah, I did a little research on that. Man, it's amazing. Okay, so I went on, I used AI for this and asked how many mosques were in America. And in 2025, approximately 2,770. And that was by Search Assist. And then I asked again, went to a different source, and it said as of June 2026, 3,967. So that'd be 4,000 mosques now that are built in the United States.
Yep.
And I just came back from 9 days down in Texas, and it is said that in Texas they have over 3,000 mosques. And these mosques they're not churches. These are not, if you're listening, you think that these are their churches, they are centers of worship. They are centers of government for Sharia.
Yep.
And they're centers of influence where they study the way of Islam. And Islam is not a religion of peace. In spite of what your friend Barry Obama said, it is not a religion of peace. We've been fed that line, and it's wrong.
Yep. Brother Dogfish was asking if that video came from Times Square, New York. Nope, this one wasn't Times Square, Brother Dogfish. This one was Michigan. I believe it's Dearborn, Michigan. Can't get doesn't say where in Michigan though, unfortunately. And that's one of the things I've really tried to talk about on this program is, we are such a Christian nation, and our laws stem from that. Natural law stems from that. Our founding fathers, we've proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, we're 54 out of 56 were Christian. And, as we go ahead and the world expands and becomes smaller digitally, we have real influence on our culture. And I've seen Sharia law firsthand in Afghanistan. And dude, it is heartbreaking. There are people out there with the black burqas, and there's the blue burqas, and to watch, I mean, the kids would be out there playing, and it was always our thing to give them candy, and that was one thing. And I remember this little girl out there playing one day. She was out there playing. The next day, I could see this little girl in a burqa, and I'm like, what the heck is? And I could see her. I could tell who she was by her eyes. And I'm just like, oh, and it's heartbreaking, And I don't want my granddaughter to live that way. I don't want my daughter to have to worry about that. And we've got to stand up and fight for our values and be able to do so in a way that is eloquent, not foolish, gentle, but firm. And, it's one of those things where at some point I will start reading the Quran over the WYAB airwaves so that people truly understand what they're dealing with. I feel, just my opinion, I'd like your opinion on this. I feel that the American Christian is so inadequately prepared to debate and defend the faith. 1 Peter 15, like we said in the first hour, people can't do that. And I'd like to know what you think about that.
Our Constitution is being used against us to that point that the gangs, the Islamic, and I really I call them Marxians.
Mm-hmm.
They're Marxist, Islamist, Muslims, and they have one goal, and that is to take this country from you and I and our prodigy, our families. They think that we owe that they are the chosen race, and that they are owed this, and they want they're bent on taking this from us, this great nation. I'm gonna read this, and this is a quote by a Muslimist Islamist. It is a duty incumbent on every Muslim to struggle toward the aim of making every people Muslim and the whole world Islamic, so that the banner of Islam can flutter over the earth and the call of the muezzin can resound in all corners of the world. God is great, Allahu Akbar. The motto of the Muslim Brotherhood encapsulates this mission. Allah is our goal. The Prophet is our leader. Our Quran is the law. Jihad is our way. Dying in the way of Allah is our highest aspiration. If we had Christians that were that concerned about being Christ-like and living the Word of God and living godly lives, the world would be a totally different place. But we are at a point now. This has gone on. So what I read you from this came out. This was Muslim Brotherhood in America by Robert Spencer. This came out in 2010.
Wow.
We are 16 years down the road from this.
You want to know what? If people were just acting a little bit more Christ-like and striving for it, not saying you're going to reach it, because none of us ever reach it, but the problems that we have in Jackson and Hinds County would be null and void. You would have people with manners and respect and the love of each other, all reaching for the high calling of Christ, that we wouldn't be having all these teenage pregnancies and shootouts and gang problems. We wouldn't.
They'd have dignity.
Yeah. Oh, let's think about that. Let's think about that when we get back from the break. Brother Troy, I got your text. I'll try to get that in here after the break. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show. I am with Brother Carl. This is 103.9 WYAB, and we will be right back. And welcome back to the Andrew Gossett Show on 103.9 WYAB. I'm with Brother Carl and Brother Troy sent in a text, and this is going to open up a can of worms at the end of the show. But I think it's important. Brother Troy, who is an elder at my church, by the way, I love Brother Troy. He's got a beautiful bride named Brandy, and they have a wonderful family. And Troy's known me for over 9 years now, and just a great guy, solid dude. People are so focused on Israel and sleeping on the fact that Muslims are taking over our country. I would much rather be controlled by Israel than allow Muslims to control our country. And I can just hear Brother Rick driving off the road right now. And what I want to say is, and then I want your opinion on this, is I don't want to be ruled by Israel. If Bibi Netanyahu's the prime minister or the one in charge, and without violating any pieces of paper I may have signed, is I want a godly Israel. But when 98% of Israel right now, the people that live there consider themselves atheists, when they have the largest LGBTQ festival in the world, it's bigger than San Francisco, dude. I don't want to be ruled by that Israel. I would much rather be ruled by God-fearing men and women in the United States of America, and we got to fight for it. But that's just my opinion. I'd like to know what your opinion is.
I think that Bibi Netanyahu and Donald Trump and all the other leaders in the world, God has raised them up for such a time as this. And I believe that everyone is on the stage that is supposed to be there. I believe that God in his sovereignty is working all things out to his end. And how are our ways when we can't understand him? His ways are not like our ways, and our ways are not like his ways. How can we ever determine who's right, who's wrong for the thing, except this is me, except that God has allowed them for such a time as this to steer us to that end. I believe the Bible is absolutely true, and that the Word of God, what he has said in Daniel and Matthew 24, when Christ gave his dissertation and move into Revelation, I believe all of that is going to be true. To me, it gets jumbled up as far as chronologically in my mind, because I'm just, I ain't got that, but
you're all right.
But I believe it's going to happen, and that Christ is coming back to save his own, and he's going to stand on the Mount of Olives, and it's going to split in half, and the east gate is going to be unbricked and opened up because the word says it, and we'll see it.
Yep.
We'll see that.
So this is where I want to push back a little bit on that, because, and I'm going to go to history. Yes, you can find it in the Bible, but this is actual history of the Assyrians coming in and absolutely wiping out the Jews because they were not following the scripture. And, the prophet Jeremiah and Ezekiel both said that. But don't believe Jeremiah and Ezekiel. Go read your actual history books. It happened. And then God used the Persians to go ahead and take out the Judah after they took out Israel. And who are the Persians? They're the Iranians.
Exactly.
They're the exact same people. Yep. And we were talking about the beginning. If you have the eyes to see, we were talking about that scripture. If you see it, then you're like, okay, this is all happening. But for me personally, and I'm not arguing with Brother Troy, and Brother Troy, you're more than welcome to come in. We got to have you in sometime. But I don't want to be associated with what I know is not what is in the word, Like some people can say they're a Christian, but they're sitting there flying the rainbow supremacy garments in their services and talking about it's okay for two men to be together and get married and two women. That's wrong. Most practicing Christians would agree with that. There are people out there who would say, live and let live, and love is love. No, God is love. But if we can't sit there and have these conversations in a way that is gentle yet firm, then we're going to be in trouble.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I just see the leaders where they are now as lining up. order to bring everything, to bring prophecy to fulfillment.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah, and brother Troy checking in. I don't want to be controlled by anyone either. I'm just making the point with all of the Israel hate, well, misleading, while misleading are actually, or Muslims are actually taking over. And Troy, you're absolutely right. I don't want to be saying that the anti-Semitism, and I have a whole like 5 or 6 stacks of stuff on this that I always say I want to get to on the show, but time just flies by. You see how fast it goes by.
Yeah.
But the anti-Semitism that's being predicated upon the youth of America, whether it be in elementary school, middle school, high school, and our undergraduates, like what's happening at Princeton and Yale and Harvard, the anti-Semitism, it's maddening to me, and how we don't go out and speak out against it is downright frightening to me. And there are voices out there who make it seem like it's okay to hate Israel, and you don't necessarily hate Israel, you hate what Israel's doing. And
You're seeing that more and more on our campuses.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been going on for Obama ushered in this era. I'm firmly convinced.
Yep.
Matter of fact, I've got the receipts, they say right here that describes it. And it's so he really was the big proponent that allowed this. And of course he said he was not Muslim, said he claimed he was a Christian. He grew up in Muslim nation, going to Muslim school. And you can't go to Muslim school and not learn the Muslim way, because that's why you're sent to that school.
You go to madras, which is the teaching of the Quran. They send the boys to madrasa, I think, starting at age 4.
Yeah.
And somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. And I don't claim to know everything, but I know what the madrasa is because we had to go patrol them, and we would surveil them, and we knew which madrasas were Shia and which ones were Sunni. And you got to know the difference between the Shias and the Sunnis and the Protestants and the Catholics and all the denominations. There are differences, and it's to the point to where I don't want to see the Israel hate anymore. I don't want to see the America hate. We're self-deprecating. We are so hateful towards our own country. And when I see the poverty, when the Sweet Bee goes to Honduras and she goes down there, she's been down there 3 or 4 times, and she has relationships with some of these kids who their job every day is just to go to the garbage dump and pick out food to eat. That's their job. And then I come back here and I see some gangbanger complaining about how their civil rights are being oppressed, and they've got a cell phone and they've got high-speed internet and they're going to Arby's and they got everything. I'm just sitting there. You have no idea what poverty is. You have no idea what real true oppression is. And
that's something that you and I have both seen. I've been out of the country. My first trip out of the United States was to Zaire, Africa.
Oh, wow.
Yes, in 1981. Yeah, and it's unless you've been outside of this nation,
you don't know.
You don't know. And you go to a place like that. Go to Mexico City. Go down into Mexico, and it's so impoverished you can't wrap your head around it. And when you get back to the United States, you will likely fall on your knees and kiss the ground of this great land.
I tell you what, I have kissed the ground of the United States before coming back from Afghanistan.
I did when I came back from
I'll tell you
Zaire.
what, because the smell of the dump and the smell of just some of the stuff that I had to witness is
the smell of the people.
Oh,
yeah.
The body odor is it's different. It's because of the water there that they drink and the food that they consume. It's just a different kind of stank. And I'm not trying to say that they're not. I'm sure they take showers and everything, but it's just different. And we are we're truly conditioned. You saw it at the World Cup, where the Europeans are absolutely amazed at this thing called air conditioning and
ice.
I mean, small little things here, ladies and gentlemen, in America that we take for granted every day. And that's why I guess we're going to kind of start closing this up here. That's why I sort of feel the American church then compared to like the overseas third world nation church. We
don't know persecution.
We don't, but we're about to find out.
Yes. And if the Muslims are allowed to continue to grow like they are, that's where it's going to come from.
It's almost like Jeremiah and Ezekiel all over again. the Lord's raising up another nation to go ahead and take us down. And I mean, it's scary to think like that. Don't want to
Yes.
think like that. And that's why I say it's always important to get involved in local politics. Darn it.
Yes, because they are.
Yep.
They are, and they're winning school board positions and council positions and mayoral positions.
Chief of police, chief of fire department.
They do it all. They do it all, and that's my plan.
Yeah. And if you can't see it right now, then we're in trouble. But that's why the Andrew Gosser Show is here. That's why Brother Carl is there.
Amen.
And we're going to be back right after this commercial break. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. Be right back. Oh yeah, Andrew Gosser back with brother Ken or brother Carl. Why do I keep saying Ken? I read Ken Cuccinelli on my
Oh,
timeline. Now I got Ken Cuccinelli. If you know who he is, he's a
yeah.
guy out of Virginia.
Virginia.
And Carl, this has been a great show. I feel like we've talked about the current events. I know that some people want to go really hard on what the president talked about last night, but you can get that everywhere. And that's what makes WYAB 1039 WYAB so special is that we're not afraid to talk about the things that need to be talking about that perhaps don't need all the attention that you can go get somewhere else. And I know that we're the only radio station talking about Sharia law. We're the only radio station talking about the real problems that this president's facing. We call out Democrats and Republicans. We call it right down the middle, balls and strikes, nothing there. And brother Carl, it was just great to have you here, man.
I've really enjoyed it, Andrew. And just I've heard you say it, and I've heard Rick say it. It just time flies by, and it really. I didn't know that I could make 2 hours, but it's been a great experience.
Well, brother Rick will be in the studio next Tuesday, and I'll let people know this. I was supposed to actually go in for outpatient surgery today after the show, but it got canceled at the last minute. So it's going to actually be Tuesday after the show. So next Wednesday, brother Blake Bartlam will be guest hosting for me. The station manager doesn't even know. It just happened over while the show was going on. So, Matt, I'm not trying to do anything dirty to you, man. It just is what it is. Don't like giving the station manager any drama. But
does Matt monitor you?
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? I appreciate it. You know,
shout out to Matt. And let me just say this about your sponsors.
Yeah.
People, listeners, support these sponsors and let them know that you listen to WYAB wherever you are. I drive from South Warren County to Bentonia to go buy rye and greens.
Wow.
At Bentonia, and they advertised up here one time, and I said I'm gonna support them. Hometown Hardware. I go over there and buy my parts for my lawnmower. It's just be faithful.
Yep. I hope our sponsors hear that, and we've got great sponsors. You know, iGear Optical, foundations. Can't remember the foundation name. Superior Foundation.ms. Great people. You know, and they sit there. Oh, and Cowden Electric, another great sponsor. You know, the sponsors really allow us to do the things we need to do here at the radio station, to say the things we need to say. And all of a sudden, cancel culture, not cancer, cancel culture comes rearing at our door. We can sit there and we can stand up to it because of our valuable and loyal listeners. And Carl, you're one of them, man. And we've known each other for a long time. We had pizza at Railroad Pizza Company, another sponsor on the station. So just really, it means a lot, brother. And I'll give you the last word, and then we got to do the segment that I know you were talking about.
I would love, now that you have such a reach, you're reaching so far, I'd love to have actually some sponsors show up in Warren County where I live.
Yep.
I mean, it's over an hour for me to get just here to the station. It's an hour and almost 10 minutes, but it's worth the drive. And Flora is one of the most beautiful cities in Mississippi. It's absolute.
Flora is absolutely beautiful. But brother Carl, you know who else is beautiful?
Sweet Bee.
Sweet Bee, yes. And, you know, she is a true Proverbs 31 girl. I tell men, you want to have a better life with your wife, not your spouse, but your wife, go read her Proverbs 31 and do that, dude. And I'm just going to tell you, life will be good. You know, the little things, go giving flowers, taking her out to dinner. You know, she's in Alabama with my daughter and her friend. So we won't be having a date night this weekend. She's out there seeing the battleships and all the other craziness that's in Alabama. But you know what? She's wonderful. It's been fun, Carl. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yep. This has been the Andrew Gosser Show on 1039 WYAB. Lindsey Beckham is next. And until then, take care, everybody. Be blessed. Yes, and amen. Amen, everybody.